Hello, friends, and welcome to Worldbuild with Us, the podcast where we create fantastical worlds with help from you, our listeners. My name is Rob Hilferty, and I'm here with my co-hosts Daniel Quinn and Courtney Staples. On today's episode, a patron prompt has us looking into a big, glowing city. But before we get into that, remember that if you want us to build your world, you can always go to our website, worldbuildwithus.com. And this is a brand new announcement. We've just added a suggestion box to our Discord. So if you're in a Discord and you want to add either a prompt or if you want to give us feedback about a previous prompt or setting that we've done, you can go to our Discord with a link for that in the description. Of course, if you want to follow us on social media, you can go to our Twitter, all that good stuff. Go to the tweet machines. We're there. And if you're feeling particularly generous, like Diploraptor here, you can go to our Patreon and give us money, where we have patron exclusive episodes now, which is pretty cool. We just did our second one not too long ago, and they're really fun. It's a very different vibe from the main podcast, I have to say. If you want to hear us talk shit for like almost an hour, if you want to just like come hang out, go to our Patreon. We have those episodes available for $5 and up patrons. But enough of the shilling. Let's get into the prompt. Now, this prompt, like I said, comes from our patron Diploraptor, who submits it as the City of Eternal Dawn, a city whose stonework glows golden 24/7. So even at the pitch black of night, the city is light with the color of dawn, dusk, and twilight. In this city, where the light always shines, what crime exists in the shadows of such a city? Who are the major families and organizations? What is life like in this city and its eternal dawn for the citizens? Diploraptor also offers up 3 tenets. One is, the sun is sacred to the city, so much so that it is why the city glows with the sun goddess's blessing. Only the stonework of the city glows, thus wooden buildings and structures do not produce light. The church and leadership of the city are not evil or malicious. They are a positive force for good. So with our prompt out of the way, again, thank you so much for the prompt, Diplo. Always appreciate it. And who wants to get us started with their first tenet for this glow light city?
I'd be happy to start, since mine has to do with why it glows.
Oh, okay. Courtney, go ahead.
Okay, so kind of going off of one of Diplo's tenets about the sun goddess's blessing being what makes the city glow, what better way to honor the sun and receive her blessing than blood sacrifice, everybody's favorite.
Hell yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So I'm picturing like a stone temple ziggurat kind of thing in the middle of the city, with grooves carved into its sides, and when a sacrifice is carried out, probably during like an eclipse, because of course, the blood would flow down the grooves and like spread into all of the interconnected stonework and architecture of the city, thus imbuing it all with glowing properties, maybe even some sort of magical protection or some other sort of beneficial thing.
Okay, this is a really dope idea, and I think it actually is good. What would you say, Daniel?
So it's pretty messed up.
Yes, it is pretty messed up. But I actually think it's actually going to work pretty well with my tenet.
Oh,
but
nice.
Before we continue, I do want to address how. Okay, so the church is not evil. The main people are not evil. Are we going to take a vicious stand here and say that blood sacrifice is not inherently evil? Because I think we might have to have some words about that before we continue on.
Yeah, I agree.
That is basically the stance that I'm going for, in that okay, so without these sacrifices, maybe the city would be doomed. So
it's a greater good.
Right. Is the sacrifice evil or malicious if the outcome is very much a positive thing? And maybe they even view the sacrifices as like an honor to be chosen to give your life to the goddess.
So we're talking from a collectivist society perspective type thing, right?
We're taking a utilitarian moral point of view, it seems.
Yeah, this is already morally complex, Courtney, but I'm totally here for it.
Or potentially a moral relativist point of view.
Oh, very much so, yeah. Well, it's funny you should mention that, because now you say that, Courtney, and both of my tenets work very well. There is no collusion on this episode, not this time. But I want to give one of my tenets, which is the entire city is built underground and there is no natural sunlight anywhere except the city itself.
That was actually going to be very close to my second one, which was that the glowing stone allows them to grow down into the earth rather than needing to expand outward.
Oh, interesting. Oh, and that would make sense. But
Mhm.
yeah, I mean, I recognize that the Underdark and like the underground is something that is ubiquitous among fantasy places, and especially D&D with its Underdark setting, right?
Mhm.
And I recognize that we've never really done anything robust in that. Like we've had dwarven episodes before, but like I wanted to like get into a little bit more of like what a truly underground setting would be like, and I think this is an ample opportunity.
If it's underground, this also explains the value of the city if it can generate its own light.
Exactly. Exactly.
Everywhere else would be horrible and dark like the Underdark.
Exactly. And not only that, but I was thinking in my mind that you can also evoke kind of themes of hope, like it's a beacon in the darkness, like if we wanted to keep the church and the people within the city as like good people, then yeah, like, oh, we're providing hope, we're providing the light in the dark, that type of thing. It's very thematic. It's overt, but I think it also works for what we're trying to do here. Any other comments before we continue on?
How much blood are we talking?
I suppose that's actually a very good question.
That is a good question. I don't know.
Does it have to be sentient blood? Can it just be animal blood, for example?
I mean, I was definitely picturing like human sacrifice.
Specifically human, right?
Yeah.
Humanoid, maybe.
If you want to tone it down and just do animals, that's
no. I think it's got to be. I think there's something about the animus in a human, and it can't just be like some other species. It probably has to be. Well, maybe it could be some other species. We don't know if there's other species in the setting yet, but I think it has to be something sentient.
So, okay,
with a soul.
Can we split the? Well, are you saying that animals don't have souls, Daniel? You would say,
of course, they're soulless.
Yeah.
You're
monstrous. You're absolutely
food.
Monstrous. I hate it. Okay, we're ignoring that for many reasons. But I think
redheads and animals don't have souls. I mean, that's
Are you married to a redhead? How does that work in your household?
I love redheads. I'm telling you, redheads are my favorite.
Okay, we're moving the fuck on right now. I think we need to split the difference here. Can we say that sentient beings are sacrificed, but it's for special occasions? Like you can do with like an animal sacrifice in a pinch, but the best results are like humanoid sacrifice. Can we
I
at least
really want full on. It's got to be sentient people. Maybe it's not as often though. To maybe to your point, maybe it's not a lot. You don't need it often.
Maybe like the eclipse thing is the human sacrifice, but there's like a daily or like weekly animal type thing.
Okay.
Yes. See that I can get behind, because I feel like it's very hard if like every day you're just churning out another human sacrifice. Like I feel like this is something that maybe we can even have it be like a solar cycle or something like that. Like every cycle something happens and we need like, okay, toss another human on the pile, like that's that type of thing.
Question. So I'm still a little bit on the fence with animals only because I feel like it's too cheap. Could we say that maybe it doesn't need a lot of blood? Like it just needs that human in certain cycles.
Just a little bit of blood.
Yeah, like we need a lot of blood for that moment, but like from that whole human. But could we just say it's not that frequent? Because I think that would build a lot of tension towards the sacrifice. Because if you're constantly killing things and throwing it on it becomes kind of like, oh, gotta kill something, throw it on there. It's kind of mundane.
Tuesday.
Okay,
but if it's, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
I hear you. I think I might have like another in between type thing. So sacrifice doesn't necessarily always mean death of the thing. It just means you're giving up something, right? You're sacrificing part of yourself. Now, I'm not saying that we cop out and be like, oh, you prick your blood and you're fucking fine. But maybe it's a thing where it's a blood tithe, where if you're a citizen of the city, you have to bleed yourself into a communal, like a communal bowl.
Like imagine going to church, instead of eating the wafer, you prick your finger into the pool, into the little wafer, and they pour that into whatever.
Or even like the church members are going around and they have a giant cauldron that's just like
Mhm.
golden. It's a stone cauldron. It's glowing and it's golden. And then
Yeah.
like they pour that onto the ziggurat and it like flows
Yeah.
down.
And that's what sustains it for the meantime.
Yes.
That way we don't have to have animals, and it's always like something sentient. But when the ritual comes, that's when they give a whole person to it.
Yeah.
Maybe that's like an annual thing or something like that. So we can make
Exactly.
it less grisly and less like grim dark. I mean, we're already
Yeah.
in the pitch black. So like maybe like
Mhm.
for once, I'm not trying to encourage Courtney's grisliness here, but like I'm trying to like rein it in just a little bit here, you know?
That's fair. That's fair.
Yeah. I mean, and it could be, we don't know like the level of technology of the setting either. So it could be a sophisticated sort of process too.
True.
I mean,
true.
or it could be very medieval for all we know. We haven't gotten there yet.
Mhm.
So do you have a tenet that might nudge us in one of those directions, Daniel?
Oh, I did, but now you're going to have to figure out what to do with it.
Oh, God.
Okay. What do we got?
So I had written down the light is radioactive and it kills anyone who isn't from the city or is anointed by its clerics.
Okay.
Interesting.
Okay, Daniel, I have to give my second tenet now. I apologize for nothing. But the other thing that I had in mind is that the light attracts the most dangerous beasts and denizens from the Underdark, and traveling outside the light radius is incredibly dangerous for the population.
I think that works though. Yeah, it's compatible.
Yeah, because it's like it's a gilded cage. Like the people who are within the radius of the glow of the light, they are safe. But anyone who's trying to like it's kind of like if a vampire and in like every horror movie that has vampires, there's like a sunbeam and the vampire reaches out and they burn themselves on the sunbeam. It's that, but for like every evil denizen of the Underdark. And this thing is like radioactive in some way.
That's cool.
I wanted it, there's something to be like dangerous about the light. So
yeah.
I don't know what the radioactivity means. Like, I don't mean that literally. Just, I mean that that kind of works with your monster thing. But I mean that if you bring someone to the city and they're not like what's inoculated to its light, they'll kill you.
Okay. I have the perfect fucking solution for this. When you give your blood, when you sacrifice your blood, when you tithe your blood, that inoculates you to the radiation.
Yeah.
Yes.
Like you're giving yourself part of it to protect yourself. Like that's absolutely what's going on here. Yeah.
And that's what lets you stay there. And it's also like, I bet if you leave too, there's probably some debilitating effects as a result of not being bathed in the light.
Yeah, I could see that.
Yeah, I could see that too. I think I had an idea as well where like merchants or people who are traveling to and from, they can probably carry like stone parts with them, to ensure that
which eventually fade away too.
Exactly. Yeah. Yes. So it's like they're not encouraged to explore outside of this area very often or very much. Rather.
And it's not so much a sinister thing, because I think it's the inhabitants of this city. Maybe not. We don't know about the leadership we know the leadership isn't evil, but they're trying to ensure the survival of these people, right?
Exactly.
So requiring it to continue glowing is part of that survival, and B, if it is damaging to people who come in, you have to bring them into your religion in order to keep them alive and to keep them safe from the darkness.
Exactly. I think that's also a fairly apt metaphor for indoctrination as well. Which,
right.
I mean, which, yes, has a bad rap overall, but like, like in this case, that we can look at it as in religious indoctrination, which I think is kind of interesting. We're like, 10 minutes in and I'm already super excited. So this is going to be a good setting already. I love how things are coming together. Courtney, why don't you hit us with your second tenet so we can see where else this thing is going to go?
So the one that I had planned on going with was that the stone allows them to grow down into the earth rather than having to expand outward. But I also had another one written down that was no or very limited metalworking.
Sure. Okay.
Interesting.
You're looking at essentially like a Stone Age kind of peoples, right?
Potentially, yeah. Or they've developed tools that don't rely on metal necessarily.
Gotcha.
Could the stone be a special kind of stone? That's why. It's not just regular stone.
It glows, Daniel, it glows with the light of the sun. Yes, it's a special kind of stone.
I mean, like, can it be called stone, but it's really some other material?
Like plastic? Like, what are we
I don't
talking about
I
here?
don't know, like, because like,
Hmm.
if we don't have metal, right, maybe they have some other, like, science fantasy material that's
Mhm.
shapeable, you know?
I think that what we might be able to do is kind of a Monster Hunter situation where they're able to use bone and,
I was
like,
just gonna say bone.
sinew.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because if I'm thinking of, like, Mesoamericans, right, where they didn't really have a lot of metalworking outside of, goldsmithing and whatnot, but, something like, uh, not onyx. What am I thinking of? The
Obsidian.
obsidian, thank
Mhm.
you. So you can probably even tie those together and say that there is, because of this radiation, it kind of melts or warps the stone around it to this
Mhm.
kind of like glass like material. So you can have
Mhm.
obsidian work, tools and whatnot, but it's obviously like it's actually, if you wanted to go like kind of cliche with it, this is like the sunstone, and then the stuff that leaches, or the stone around it that gets warped by the radiation is so black that it's night stone, if you wanted to do something like that.
So mechanically,
Mhm.
there's not really a need for metal because this is malleable enough to make things, and probably it has, maybe if you burnish it, like, it can be really strong like metal.
Mhm.
That's actually kind of interesting that they can use the sunstone itself to warp the other types of stone into
Yeah.
certain
Yeah.
shapes and stuff like that. Yeah.
Yeah.
That and
So
to
it's like a
me,
magical type of stone almost.
yeah,
Mhm.
and to me that's always kind of fun because it's like, I think way back we used to, Chris used to say something like, when you would find technology and just use it for the wrong purpose, like
Mhm.
using, like a jet engine as like a way to cook your food. I feel like that's what they're doing with this sunstone. Like this
Mhm.
stone should probably be like insanely powerful as like a magic engine, but they're
Mhm.
like, just like, oh, we can just make this rock really hot and make weapons and tools out of it, like that type of thing.
Mhm. Yeah, I like that idea.
This is dope already. I'm really enjoying this. Daniel, hit us with your second tenant and then we can kind of discuss the setting at large here.
My second tenet is relatively straightforward. It is that this city is the only one of its kind left, and the
Hell
only
yeah.
vestige of civilization
Mhm.
left in the world.
Oh, the only vestige. So that would really cut down on like the necessity of trade and everything like that then,
Mhm.
huh?
Yeah,
Okay.
I mean, I imagine you could still have people traveling out there to gather like unknown resources and things, and there's still the
Mhm.
opportunity for there to be like
Mhm.
a ruins of civilization out there.
Yep.
But my thinking is like, not only does this city shine because it's got this magical light, but it's literally known as the last place to go where you'll be safe.
So
Mhm.
does that imply that there are people out in the darkness who, like,
Yes.
civilizations out in the darkness even?
Yeah, I mean, maybe what I mean by that is like where they live is probably more apocalyptic, and this
Uh-huh.
place is
Mhm.
considered civilization.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Okay, so this is like the last city that is remaining from like what
Yeah.
have you. Okay. And it was
Mhm.
And safe
saved
from those monsters you invented, I imagine.
Gotcha.
Mhm.
Yeah, and it's funny you should mention that because when I was running down the monsters and stuff like that, that I was, because again I had this idea of like a gilded cage, like I was saying, and I didn't want it to be vampires because I feel like
Mhm.
vampires are so cliche at this point.
Yeah,
I
I think so too.
Yeah, like, at least in this regard. I brought it down to like two or like three that I thought would be kind of interesting. I'm going to include some other species here because I thought that having a criminal organization that is full of like either, like deep gnomes or goblins and stuff like that, I thought that'd be kind of fun as like an undercity type thing. But
Mhm.
that's not what we're talking about. Sorry, I'm getting off track here. I'm getting ahead of myself. But my idea was, we could either have shades, which are, like spirits of the dead, and there's like so many of them that they basically bounce off this thing like it's a fog, right? They're just a
Mhm.
fog. The other alternative that I had, and I'm sure that we can probably do both or like some combination, there is a race of trolls. And traditionally, trolls, when they're hit with sunlight, they turn to stone or they explode. And I
Yeah.
thought that having like, like massive 10 to 20-foot tall trolls lumbering around in the darkness with their cat eyes glowing in the pitch black of the underdark. I thought that'd be a really fun kind of thing that we can play with. And I think that we don't really have like a bunch of, like monstrous things in our catalog very often. So I thought that'd be a fun thing to introduce as well.
I do like the idea of trolls, especially because they could almost become a part of the city's architecture over time if they're hitting the barrier, turning into stone, or doing something,
that'd be
changing in
neat.
some way.
I'm so glad that we're on the same page here, Courtney.
Then you end up with like buildings that are like half built out of stone troll statues.
The outer walls are really just rows of trolls.
That is exactly what I had in mind too. Yes. Oh my god.
Twilight, because it's the most dim of the stones.
Yes, exactly. It's like the closer you get. Exactly. Yeah.
I love these creatures out there too, and they seem to be creatures of varying degrees of intelligence, but I would love to introduce a villainous species that's hyper intelligent in the dark.
So you want illithids?
I would like some kind of mind flayers. Some variation of mind flayers, yes.
Nice.
Okay.
Because they seem to be kind of pellucid skin, like transparent, colorless, fleshy, and
eyeless.
Light seems opposite. Eyeless.
Oh, it's basically like when you get down into the lowest parts of the ocean, how everything down there is like this weird translucent, partially glowy.
Exactly.
Squiddy.
Yeah.
And
Cthulhu-esque.
Eyeless because there's no light, so why would you need eyes? Don't waste energy on your eyes.
They use their minds. And I don't want to just like ape mind flayers, because mind flayers just ape Cthulhu-esque visions, right? So something like that. And I wonder what we can do to like invent on the premise, just like we will do with trolls, I imagine.
I think that's an interesting thing that we can kind of figure out right now, is the relationship between this kind of hyper intelligent, translucent species and the giant, monstrous, like troll like things. Is there a connection between them? And if like, because what I would want to avoid is the trolls are the servitor race to this translucent skin illithid, right? Like that's what
I have a feeling the trolls aren't all evil. I have a feeling that they have some kind of animal mentality, or maybe they're not bad necessarily.
So they're essentially like giant vicious apes in that way.
I think maybe it's possible to like not befriend a troll, but like deal with it in a way that's not through violence, because it's not evil.
Right. You can kind of bargain with it, but like it's always a very tenuous bargain, where you're like,
it's dumb.
Right. Exactly. We can definitely do that. What about, let's talk about this not illithid race, because that's what I'm interested in right now. Courtney, what do you think about this illithid, not illithid race?
Yeah, I'm trying to think of ways to make them not mind flayers, which is tricky.
Can they be parallels to the sun goddess in some way? Like, is their philosophy either opposed to, more ancient than, or a version of the sun goddess's philosophy?
How would we do that?
It makes me wonder, like, who are these people? Like, are the people of the city the original inhabitants? Are they, are the illithids a version of those people? Is there a duality there?
Oh, like they got corrupted in some way over time?
Maybe, I don't know.
I think that we go to the corruption angle a little bit too often for my taste. I think that we should strive for something different and interesting here.
I mean, if we think about their relationship in space, which I like what you were saying, Courtney, about the city descending further downward, it doesn't seem like there's a realm of the surface that we're interested in. So I wonder, and we said that these mind flayers are like deep beneath where the ocean is. So like, why are they in the ocean? Why are they beneath? And why is the city higher up? Those are all questions.
Yeah, not necessarily the ocean, but just using that imagery of like Earth's oceans, how shit gets like really weird when you go further down. Yeah, that does make me wonder though, if like the core of the planet is some sort of like watery or bizarre realm where they come from.
Is it magical? Like is this world not like a typical progression? Like maybe the it's not like hot molten core like an Earth. It's an endless ocean or something deep beneath.
Yeah.
So, okay, normally, I think I have a way that can kind of add some interesting flavor to this a little bit. The typical unknowable thing is aquatic, right? You look at Dagon, you look at the traditional kind of Cthulhuid mythos, right? What if we did something different here and we made them bat-like instead? imagine like a race of people that have no eyes, they have bat-like wings, they're translucent, they're like gaunt, but they're still hyper intelligent and capable of creating civilizations. How do we
Yeah.
feel about that
I had
instead?
been I had been thinking of bats too, in terms of like being able to use echolocation and stuff to get around.
Mhm.
My only concern was like getting too close to vampire
I
lore.
like that.
I think we can fight that though. I think that we
Mhm.
can get away from that and make it so they're just fucking bats. Like not
Yeah,
everything that
yeah,
is a vampire is a bat and vice versa. You know what
yeah.
I mean? Like
I mean, mix them with spiders a little bit too. That
Ooh,
might dilute
creepy.
the vampire feeling. Like, give them the echolocation, give them the
I hate this,
hairiness and the flight and
which
the
is a good thing, by
translucentness,
the way.
right?
I hate this, but it's a good
Right.
Yeah.
thing.
So, like, maybe they also like have this cocooning, and they also like can crawl on things, like, and they're spindly. That would make them kind of grosser and less vampire-like.
Yeah, and yeah, that's super disturbing to think about.
So they've got wings, but they're also like spindly and long,
Mhm.
and they have the hair, and they have the echolocation, the lack of
Yeah.
eyes, but they're like, you know, grotesque kind of like hands like creatures
Mhm.
that can wrap up as little like, so like I can imagine a cave, right? You're approaching this cave, and you see these little cones dangling from the ceiling that are wrapped up almost like a cocoon, and then it unfolds its wings, and there's like tons of little spindly limbs that stretch out onto the ceiling, and it can like skitter on the ceiling and it flap in the darkness. That's
That
fucked up,
was very
right?
fucked up.
Yes, Daniel, that is very fucked up. Absolutely, it's fucked up.
It's got fangs, but it also like has tentacles.
Well, wait, can we have it so there's like it has to essentially weave its own membrane? So it's like
Oh
Ooh.
instead of
yes,
like
yes.
it can have wings like bat-like wings, but it has to spit the
Mhm.
silk in between so it can actually use them as wings and stuff
Oh,
like
that's
that.
super cool. Like the wings are
100%.
essentially
Yeah.
just another pair of legs, and it makes I like that
Yes.
a lot.
Yeah.
Oh, that's hideous. I love it.
And because they're so long and spindly and spider-like, it's like this is fucking nightmare fuel. Why are we doing this? Okay, but okay, this is I think this works though. I think this is something that we can definitely do and find interesting. Uh one thing that I would love to suggest here, one of my favorite, like I love nature documentaries that are awful and terrible. I love when you see bat ecosystems where bats never touch the ground, right?
Yes.
I want to do something like
Mm.
this where it's like you'll never see
Ooh, I
these
like
things
that.
touch the ground,
Mm.
and
Mm.
where their cities are or where their like kind of collectives are, tons of bone, tons of like skeletons and like bugs.
Underneath it,
Yeah, exactly.
yeah,
So like
you
Mm.
walk on the crunch of the bones because they're not on the surface. That's fucked up.
right. And then you look up and there's like giant spire cities and stuff like
Oh,
that.
yeah,
Yeah.
they're upside down.
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
Oh my god, 100%. Something you asked before, which I just thought of. You asked, "What's the relationship between the trolls and these creatures?" I
Yes.
thought one relationship could be that I imagine these creatures have some sort of psychic powers. Obviously,
Mm.
I think the trolls are
You
immune to the
love
psychic
psychic
powers.
powers,
I
Daniel.
love psychic powers. I think the trolls are immune to it.
Okay.
I'm cool with that. Yeah.
Yeah.
So they're
Yeah,
immune to
yeah.
psychic power. Yeah.
They're too dumb.
There's you dumb.
Yeah. It just doesn't work on them, and that's why these
Mm.
creatures don't like the trolls.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm cool with that. And that way the trolls can kind of be a threat to either party and stuff like
Yeah.
that. Yeah.
And
sure.
maybe even one of the reasons why the trolls try to go to the glowing city is more for safety than for attacking
Mhm.
it, because when they get attacked by the fucking weird spider
Oh yeah.
bat things, like they just run towards whatever looks safest and then end up
Mhm.
turning into stone on the edge.
It's kind of like how prehistoric man used to run woolly mammoths off cliffs. It's like
Mm.
There you
that, but
go.
they're
Yeah.
directing them to it. That's actually
I love
really
that.
interesting
Mm.
because it's also like it gives reason as to why the dangerous denizens of the Underdark are attacking the city because they're not
Mm.
really attacking it. They're actually just
Right.
trying to run away from this other thing, or they're
Exactly.
being herded into this direction.
I have a question that I think is kind of vampire-like, but it might be a fun play on it. Like,
Ugh.
so okay, so I know what you think I'm
I'm
gonna say,
joking.
but
Go ahead. I'm joking.
the blood of the city, the blood given to the city powers the light, right? Or at least renews it in some way. I'm wondering if it's not necessarily just the blood, because it's the blood of the sentient, right? And we've said that these creatures in the Underdark, the alien ones, feed on they can use psychic powers, right? I wonder if they're able to sap that sentient, like they can drain sentience almost in a way that makes the blood no longer have the power. So like, say you're attacked by one, they might be able to like sap your sentience, and then say if we went to go tithe at the city, your blood doesn't help. Is there something we can do with that? Because I feel like there's a connection between the sentience required to power the city through the blood and these creatures using psychic powers.
No, that's an interesting idea.
Yeah. I think that there's something to that we can work on. I think that the idea of a catch and release is terrifying. You know, like there's this idea that, oh, they try to come back, but they're essentially zombies at that point, right?
Maybe they parasitize people in some way. Like they can't go to the city, but they could send people that they have touched to the city.
And like try to corrupt their blood or something.
And there's your crime syndicate.
Oh, interesting.
Like people operating in the city who have been touched by these creatures. And so they're proxies.
I'm getting a lot of parallels to Perdido Street Station.
I'm also thinking of Perdido Street Station, with the slake moths in particular. When it comes to well, one thing I do want to comment on really quick, Daniel, is that would in line with like the illithid kind of like brain sucking thing. So I like that concept. I want to see if we can kind of figure out how we can make that work, because if we look at these things, they're giant spiders with like bat-like tendencies, like they're horrible like monstrosities. Do they wrap their victims up in silk and then somehow drain the sentience out of them like a spider would kind of, know, liquefy and then suck out the innards and everything like that?
I think
so. So how can we make that work exactly?
I don't think they kill them, though. I think like there's some other purpose to sentient creatures, like to use them, because I feel like they're in opposition to the city, right?
Right.
And you've got to undermine that from within, because they can't get into it without being killed.
So they don't kill them, but are they is this how they feed though? Because that's the question I have to ask.
They probably feed on sentience. I mean, maybe.
Yeah.
Right. Okay, so you're feeding on the sentience, you're gaining. Is it also like old school mind flayers where you would also gain the memories from those that you like devour?
I like that.
If that's the case, then you have sorry, I just got struck with another idea where maybe because they have the blood of that person in them, they can actually, wouldn't that inoculate them from the light in some way?
Oh. You mean inoculate what? The creature?
The creature, yeah, because you're devouring its blood, right? And the blood is what offers protection. So as long as you don't miss your blood tithe, they have a window where they can actually enter the city in some way,
penetrate the city. Ooh.
Yeah.
And that would have to be people who have already been inoculated by the city.
Right. Yeah. So like, and again, that would discourage people from ever traveling outside if they know that this is happening.
I mean, it would mean that perhaps one of their ambitions is to get enough inoculated people to create enough of a force to assault the city. Because if these creatures, I don't know why they would want to, but if these creatures are like taking people, draining them so they can have the inoculation and then, I don't know, setting them free, now those are inoculated for a short time. But is their plan to like get enough of them inoculated to do something about it? Like what if it's a short-term thing? Like what's their plan then? I don't know.
I think that we should probably leave this as it is right now, because I love how open-ended this is. I love that there are a bunch of possibilities. I don't think that drilling down and finding the answer is what we necessarily want to do right now.
Yeah.
Because we have so many other questions to answer.
We have factions and stuff.
Not only do we have factions, but I have questions about how the rest of the setting functions, right? Like,
right.
For example, one of the questions that Diplo asked in the prompt itself is like, what do the people living in this city, what do their daily lives look like? To me, this seems like a lot of it is like, it's a deeply religious like city from what I can understand. I don't even know what a criminal underground might look like. You know what I mean?
I mean, we have to also ask some questions about like economy, because bringing up what you said earlier about like merchants and people traveling outside the city, like what are their resources? How do they sustain themselves? All this stuff, I guess, would be necessary to figure out what a criminal group would be doing, because they're usually doing stuff that has to do with the economy.
Right.
The question is, like, we know that there's the powering of the city through blood, it seems to be independent of any other activity that happens in the city, like food, for example, and wages, like those seem to have nothing to do with blood, right? So can you only grow plants in the city, or is it hard to grow plant life and so they have to get it from outside and they eat mushrooms? I don't know, because there's no light outside, so I don't know how it works.
I think a good idea to do right now is to like step back from the initial premise, and then what you're suggesting, Daniel, is just like really figure out the logistical information about like how the people might live. One thing I do want to bring up, I think that because we're offering that it's a sun goddess and this is a sun stone, like it's then it should be, you should be able to grow things like plant life with that stone. I think that should be a thing that we should be able to do.
Yeah, and I could picture like almost like greenhouses around the city. That are like surrounded by
stone.
Stone and like maybe glass to even concentrate the light even further.
Yeah, that's possible. And then in terms of like meat and stuff like that, because I imagine that it's not going to be a vibrant like grassland in terms like that. So certain livestock is just not going to be able to be a thing.
Yeah.
I imagine that there are like the most dangerous job that you can have in this society. You're a hunting party. You're going out into the darkness to try and take down whatever's out there and then bring its carcass back for meat.
Yeah.
Initially, I thought that we could even have them be troll hunters, which might be kind of interesting. But it's one of the things where it's like you can't drive them towards the city because then you lose the good meat, right?
Because they turn to stone.
So like that's kind of interesting. I think that's a bit of flavor. I know, right?
For them.
You should, but again, but I think that's a little bit. I don't think that's what I really want to do. I think that's a bit of fun flavor that could be, but I want to focus more on like, okay, what's out there in the Underdark that they can hunt for food? That's what I'm more interested in.
I mean, you said there's other monsters. Like, could there just be other warped monsters out there that are edible? Like dinosaurs or something? Night dinosaurs?
Night
dinosaurs.
Yeah.
Not dinosaurs, but night dinosaurs.
Yeah.
Like they're afraid of the light because it's bright and stuff, but they're out there. They eat people.
Oh my goodness. The Noctosaurus Rex. Yeah.
Yes.
No, that was a joke.
Yes! Like giant gecko dinosaurs.
Okay, wait, geckos are cool.
To bring it back to not dinosaurs.
Courtney, please help us.
I'm picturing like giant bugs like centipedes and millipedes and like pill bugs and stuff that thrives in those like dark, grimy areas.
Okay,
they got protein.
Yeah,
exactly. Yeah.
And I think geckos are also a really good idea as well because like just crank up the size on those things, and they're also eating those giant bugs that are down there as well. Like those two concepts work really well.
So dinosaur geckos is what you're saying.
Geckosaurus Rex, yeah, sure. Yes. I'm cool with like giant gecko things, especially because you can see them crawling along the walls, and they're essentially just if anyone knows Monster Hunter, you can think of them as like the Kazoo and stuff like that.
Can you ride them?
Yes.
I'm actually going to say no, because you can't domesticate anything within the city limits. Right.
Well, if you're Boba Fett, though, I mean, you could ride a crate dragon. Or a rancor beast.
Yeah, but it's not like, okay, you can ride them, but is it really riding, or you're just holding on to them?
Holding on, basically.
Yeah, exactly. It's not like you're not domesticating these things.
Until you get to the faction we'll introduce where they are the riders of the gecko dinosaurs.
God damn it. You know what? You can save that for the next episode. Fuck's sake.
I do have a serious contribution here. I wonder if there's it seems okay. I initially said that the blood situation seems disconnected from their economy, but then I think I wonder if there is a need to have an influx of people, to kind of regular immigration into the city.
Mhm.
And I wonder if there are groups of people who live out, in the darkness who would love to be part of the city, and they're
Mhm.
different tribes of some kind. That would give us some dynamic to
Yeah.
work with.
Yeah, I think it's good to have other settlements, even if they're not as like built up, like mega cities like this one, but at least have some sort of like straggling towns out there trying to survive.
Yeah, like Paleolithic kind of existence, but
Yeah.
they look towards the city as if someday they could get there.
Yeah, you know what's funny? I can see this like little mini setting that we have going on. You could probably copy paste it into Plangea. I feel like that could work really well.
Yeah.
Agreed.
Yeah. Shout out to Dave Somerville, by the way, and Justin Alexander. But yeah, I think that you could do something like that remarkably well. And I can also see the city itself. We haven't really talked about what it might look like, right? We don't know how big or expansive it might be, how many walls there are. Like, are there walls? We don't really have a good idea of what it looks like right now.
It's basically Super Mario.
Daniel, do you know how fucking vague that is? Like, do you know how many
like
worlds
pipes, but they're gold.
So you mean
down.
a golden pipe like in Mario? Like
yeah. One thing I think would be neat is if, like the bat mind flayer things, the city's upside down, like it's ceiling to floor-ish, suggesting perhaps it was built not for the inhabitants originally.
Okay, I like that
stalactites or mites. I don't know which one.
I like that idea. Can we kind of take it and expand upon that? So maybe the initial like ziggurat that Courtney had in mind, it's a reverse ziggurat. So it's like it looks like a giant stalactite.
100%.
But there is a city that is built around it. So very obviously that giant stalactite ziggurat thing, that was like very much not the humanoids who have since come and like essentially claimed it as their own.
That's exactly what I mean.
Yes. Yeah. But the rest of the city is like, like
Mario
floor
pipes.
up. No, it's not Mario. Okay. I think what we should do, because we've done a good job laying the base layer down. We've got a bunch of really cool ideas, a bunch of really cool shit. I think we should probably roll some dice for the world anchor and see where we can kind of go from there. How's that sound?
Sounds good. I also realized, Daniel, that with the Mario pipes and like rideable geckos, you got Yoshi and
oh, motherfucker.
See, Courtney, she always has my back. She always gets it.
Okay, so now I swear to you, next episode, I'm introducing a fire flower, and I'm introducing I'm introducing a Tanuki suit, like
oh my god,
an anatomically correct Tanuki suit on top of that.
I can't wait.
We're making this happen. It's your fault, Daniel. Everyone blame Daniel for this.
Oh, I love every second of it.
Why must you ruin things I love, Daniel? Why? All right, let's roll some dice for the world building anchor, and we can kind of go from there. For those of you who might not know, the world building anchor is a thing that we roll for randomly that plays a major part within the world itself. It might be an important leader, it might be an important event, but for the setting that we're talking about, the world building anchor, this thing that we're talking about plays a major role in the setting. So we're going to roll for that now. The thing that we're going to be focusing on for this anchor is we've got a hero, and the theme of this hero is going to be okay. Good luck with this one. So so we've got a hero, and the theme surrounding the hero is bottomless hunger.
Wow.
Yeah. How are we going to square this whole deal? So we've got a hero. The theme is bottomless hunger. Thematically, I mean, this could be a metaphor. It could be literal. I'm open to suggestions here. What are we thinking?
The hero is the sun goddess herself and her bottomless hunger for blood.
Ooh. Ooh.
Oh,
Nice.
that's not a bad idea, Daniel.
I like that.
We're gonna have to flesh that out a little bit, obviously.
Yup.
Okay, okay. I've got so many ideas. I've got so many different ways that we can go with this. Is the sun goddess in a state of metamorphosis as we speak? The blood that these people are offering will essentially allow her to evolve into her next stage and then bring the sun back to the world at large.
Yeah, hell yes.
Yes. Yes.
And that way we can now justify the human sacrifice a little bit more,
Yes.
because it's not just for the betterment of the community,
The
it's for the
world.
betterment of the world, right? These people believe that that the ziggurat is essentially a cocoon. And in fact,
my
it is,
God.
I'm sorry, Courtney, it is no longer a ziggurat. It is a giant cocoon. It's like a stone cocoon or something like that.
It could have, grooves in it that look like ziggurat steps.
Maybe there's
and that's
Oh,
why
it totally
think
does.
Yeah, maybe there's like a ziggurat underneath it that they walk up or something.
Yeah,
her
there we
tomb
go.
that's inside of it.
Ooh.
Yes. Yeah. Okay, there we go. And Daniel?
Can we also add that to commune with the goddess, you put on like a golden mask, and that person who wears it like is possessed by her to speak for her?
Or like an oracle kind of thing.
Why are you trying to make? I feel like this is a weird thing that you're gonna add. What's your game? What's your fucking
What's my
end
end
game?
game?
Yeah.
I am referencing a Star Trek episode where Data becomes a sun goddess.
Oh my God. Really?
I knew it.
I sure am.
This is way too fucking specific.
TNG fans will know exactly what I'm talking about.
God damn. I mean, that's fine. Yeah, sure. A golden mask. Why not? Sure. Actually, wait a minute. We can. I'll do you one better. It's a golden mask, not made out of gold, but made out of the stone itself. So it's a stone mask.
Yeah.
And I can now add in a JoJo reference because it also transforms the person in some way.
I like that.
What if the person who wears this mask is the one that's being sacrificed, and before they are fully sacrificed, maybe as they're bleeding out, they are possessed by the goddess.
Yeah.
And it speaks to them.
Oh. Can we have it so the person essentially has a year to live as what is close to an avatar of the sun goddess in some way?
As she's bleeding out slowly.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, we can make that happen. Sure.
And then she becomes it's their oracular pronouncement. I mean, is the sacrifices are annual, right?
Yeah.
They are now, yes.
So maybe it's not a year she lives, but some length of time, like a day or something.
Yeah.
That it possesses her.
Yeah, I like the idea of it being like not like a year-long thing, but a somewhat quicker.
Because they can ask for pronouncements from her in that day, basically.
Yeah.
I imagine that it's a number of days that is then sacred to the people of this city, for sure.
Oh, like maybe like it's a 7-day sequence matched to like a moonrise
exactly.
or something.
Right. So, but it doesn't necessarily have to be 7. That's just like the sacred number that we're used to.
Right.
They can come up with their own. Yeah. You know what? I'm gonna roll this fucking D12, and that's
the
sacred number. There we go. Let's see.
I was gonna say 5 for like head, 2 arms, 2 legs.
And 5 points of a star.
Yeah.
You know, it's 5. Yeah, I did. Why'd you even make me roll the die in the first place, Courtney? 5 works. It's 5 days, and then it's the 5 points of a star. I mean,
and the 5 limbs, like she said.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
Well, I guess the head, the arms, right?
Head, yeah.
And not only that, but of course, you then look at the weird psionic bat spiders, and they're like,
starfish.
Yeah, starfish. What are you talking about?
Well, they're starfishes have 5 limbs.
No, I'm saying that they're going to have more appendages, so they're going to be heretical in the eyes of this weird sun goddess.
They're seen as unholy. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
I love that.
They're essentially, in their nomenclature, they're essentially demons because they have way too many limbs.
You know what I could see them arguing? Like I could see you going before one of them and having the psychic communication with them before they like drain you. And they say, have you ever looked at the symbol of the sun goddess and how there are broken points? And then that's all they say. And you're like, what? No, mind blown.
And perhaps literally, like, that's the
literally blown.
Oh man. All right. That is a great stopping point for this setting. And now we have to roll the twist for this setting.
Man, now I definitely want to run a campaign for this one. Cooking up an OSR.
Yeah, it does sound like something
easy.
you would do. Yeah.
Easy. Yeah. So we're now going to be adding the twist in. And if you want to add your own twist, you can do so by joining our Patreon. Don't forget that that's an additional perk. So if you've got a really cool twist idea, throw it our way. Hell, even if you're not a patron, toss one our way, and I'm sure we'll probably take a look at it. The twist for this episode is going to be aliens did it.
Oh, God.
Well, that's easy.
Maybe. It might be easy. I mean, there's a number of ways that we can go with it. And we're going to have to square that on next episode. So without further ado, remember that if you want us to build your world, you can go to our website, worldbuildwithus.com, and submit your prompt by clicking on the button. Just a little button you click on, and then we will do your submission within a reasonable amount of time, as long as it's not creepy or gross. If you want to follow us on social media, you can go to our Twitter at Let's Worldbuild and follow us there. If you want to come join our Discord, there's so many new and interesting and cool things going on in Discord. So come check it out with a link for that in the description. And if you're feeling particularly generous, you can always give us money over on Patreon with a link for that also in the description. That'll do it for this episode of World Build with Us. Remember that we love you very much, and we're going to get through this together. Until next week.